Okay, so today's just going to be a bit of a talky video. I'm just going to talk a bit about how you're going to go about implementing different parts of this game. Now, I've had a request to do the inventory system, so I will do the inventory system. But I feel like if I were to do the Pokemon section now, it would just be a lot of what you just saw in the Pokedex section. So it would, not be too interesting. So I think unless I get someone say, hey, I don't quite understand how I'm going to do the Pokemon section, could you maybe go over it a bit more in detail? I'm not going to be touching that. I'll explain how you will do it. And then we'll just move straight onto the inventory tomorrow. The Pokegear will probably be much of the same as bag. The player and the save are going to be more interesting ones. Less so the player, more so the save. Options I'll have to cover, and exit is not going to be a difficult one. That'll be like a 30-second thing. So, how are you going to do the Pokemon section of your game? So, first thing you're going to want to do is implement the scene switching. So if we go to the handle interaction, you notice that if the current label when an interaction is handled is 0, so if it's this top label, then switch scene. All you're going to want to do is switch that to 1, and that's what happens when you press the Pokemon button. Something that's going to be your best friend in an RPG, in any sort of game like this, is dictionaries or structs or whatever you want to call them. So we created a function called create current Pokemon. All we want to do is have a variable of current Pokemon, which is just an array. Include one Pokemon for each of these, and then render them all to the screen. So you basically just want to do the exact same thing that we just did for the Pokedex, but with a current Pokemon variable. Okay? So you create a current Pokemon variable, you add your current Pokemon in code or out of code, and then you render those onto the screen. So it will be pretty much the same thing. You'll probably want to change the way the menu system works because you don't want to scroll through your Pokemon as much. You want to just move the selection box around the Pokemon. So there's that. I will cover the battle system as well when we're done this, which will be probably around 2 weeks' time. But I firmly believe that implementing the Pokemon section in the tutorial series would be totally just useless. It would be useless. Maybe I will do a stream of it and implement it then, but it is exactly the same as this. It is exactly the same as this. That's all you're doing, okay? And I'm going to leave it there. Not to mention the fact that, working on the same project for ages, it can get pretty dull, especially when you have to do a video on each one, edit, render. Obviously, my editing isn't particularly good, but that's because I don't spend much time on them. It's not something I'm particularly passionate about. I'll show you something I have been working on, which is quite interesting. I've been making a SDL game, which is in the vein of Dwarf Fortress. This is pretty cool. Pretty simple. Been thinking of moving on to SDL. This is just using the core library, as opposed to actually implementing OpenGL along with it. But yeah, that's what I've been working on, and why I have been, I don't know. I've this whole Pokemon and Godot thing has been losing steam with me. I don't usually stick with an engine for as long as I've stuck with Godot. I like to jump around a lot, which probably isn't a good thing. I prefer doing everything from scratch because it's just a hell of a lot more satisfying, right? But yeah, I'll see you another time, or tomorrow more precisely, to do some more. We'll work on the inventory system. See ya.